We were just watching the end of a Star Trek Enterprise, and the item comes up, what is synchronicity? A lot of people don't get it. Maybe they never heard the term, or if they did, they think it's something monumental. But synchronicity is quite often very small things, things that you might not even be aware of. Why I always say you have to be present in your present moment here all the time is because then you will pick up on these synchronicities. So, if you were to consider, you hear the house you're in shifts. Sometimes houses just make house noises. Those noises are significant. In the old 3D world, you wouldn't think anything of it. Like a sheet metal heating vent. Sometimes those vents, they make a little bit of noise from heating and contracting, and they make a metallic noise. But those noises are significant. Everything is significant. If you hear your neighbor's dog barking, that is significant. Significant for what? It means pay special attention to what's going on in this moment. The dog barked, and what was going on when the dog barked. I just happened to be watching an episode of Star Trek. But everything is super significant. Especially these kind of little noises that are like, you're in the middle of watching Star Trek on Netflix, and then you hear the dog bark. That's when you are supposed to really pay attention to what somebody on the Star Trek episode is saying at that moment the dog is barking. You have to pay attention to where your eyes are directed. Somebody says it sounds no, it's not schizophrenia. It is you being aware that synchronicity is going on all the time. And if something happens, some kind of a noise, that is significant. It is the universe saying, pay attention right now to what's going on in this particular moment. Because you got a noise. You got a dog bark. How far do you want to take it? Pay attention. And then later on, maybe when you're lying in bed before you fall asleep, your mind might bring back these moments, or if you have spirit guides, they might say something about. Remember earlier when we were watching Star Trek and the dog next door barked? And tell you a little story, and maybe you'll get a little visual with your eyes closed. Everything is synchronicity. It means it's all synced up. So all the noises that you hear are synced up with information. Your job is to know that and to be ready to get whatever information comes to you. But for this to work, you have to be very attentive. So that means you have to, I was going to say cut out booze. Why? Because booze really slows you down and clouds your judgment. Does that mean synchronicity is not going on when you're drinking booze? Well, if I go to the bar and there's a bunch of people drinking booze, and I'm not drinking booze, the synchronicity is still going on, and I'm paying attention. Sometimes my eyes, they'll have TV screens going, but they don't have the soundtrack going. But something will happen, and I'll notice I'll be directed to go and look at the screen. And maybe there's a hockey game going on, and they flash a number, the player's number. The player's number is significant. There's messages in the numbers. It's not schizophrenia. You can look up these numbers. You can look up angel number, or it might have something to do with something else that you have, a book you've read where a certain number was significant. It might not be the same for you as for me, but I see these numbers and I'll look them up. Or if it's something that I know is a regular number, I'll note it. What is the general meaning of this? If you are paying attention and you're getting these little hints, it might not be exactly a deja vu, but it's like you're getting maybe a story that's playing out for you, and it's like multi-track. In other words, you're focused, me on Star Trek, but when I hear the dog bark and something in Star Trek that was a word that was mentioned, then I'm going to be hyper alert for anything to do with that word. And, later on, I might pick up a magazine, and lo and behold, they're talking about something that was drawn to my attention earlier in the day. So you really get the feeling that you just need to keep paying attention because the story is playing out. You might be getting confirmations. But this is how it works. And for you to be aware of it, you've got to be pretty much sober, and you've got to be here. In other words, you have to have your focus here, not thinking about, next year I plan on going to Portugal, and, 10 years ago I was working at a job that I didn't think was very much fun. How do you do that? Let go. And if that's what happens, you start thinking about a job you were working on 10 years ago, then be aware that that's what you were thinking of. Because something is in charge of your memories and has given you that. So be here, try and stay here. But if you really have your head, kind of jerked over there to look over there, and the dog barks, pay attention to that moment. And if you do start thinking about Portugal, pay attention, because maybe you'll think about Portugal again in a week from now. And you're trying to remember. You're not really trying to remember. These memories will come to you. But you have to pay attention and be willing to wait. Because, you might have all this information and going, what does it mean? You have to have patience for these things to play out for you. And some of these things might be long-term things. You might see something when you're driving around, and it might not become relevant for you for months. But if you are aware that these informational packets are coming to you, you've got informational packets coming to you. So pay attention. Be here. Best way to be here? Focus on your breath. Focus on being here. And if you do find that your mind gets caught up with other people who are really not into paying attention, in other words, people at the bar that are intent on getting really drunk, avoid those kind of people, because they're going to not be giving you any kind of information you need for your, let's call it, mission to planet Earth. Which means you might have to withdraw from a lot of people who are still in the 3D paradigm. Because if all they're doing is getting drunk and talking about the latest baseball score, uh, it's not really going to be helping you on your mission to planet Earth. What is your mission to planet Earth? The general mission to planet Earth is to help everyone raise their consciousness. So it's not like going over to someone who's got a pitcher of beer on their table and picking up the pitcher and dumping it on the floor. That's not what I mean, because those people just aren't ripe for higher dimensional living, fifth dimension, for example. They're not ready. They're not ripe. So, all you're going to do is don't do those kind of things. But if that's the kind of people that you see, don't feel like you need to interact with them. Which ones should you interact with? Sober people, number one. But try not to focus too much on the people. Because in 3D, we spend a lot of time gossiping and talking about baseball scores and the news and the weather. These are not part of your mission. So don't focus on those things. Don't spend a lot of time gossiping. If you find yourself in the middle of a gossip thing, focus on your breathing. See if you need to go to the bathroom so you can, interrupt the gossip or the baseball scores. Go to the bathroom and, take some time out before you come back. Because you're trying to disconnect from 3D people. They're going to be around, but they're not going to be of benefit to you. Your job is to help people who are ready to be helped. How will you know? Just be very aware. It might be a few things that you say, or maybe it's not you saying anything at all. Maybe it's the fact that you're much quieter than everyone else because you're really not interested in gossip and news and weather and sports. You're waiting for an opportunity to talk about higher consciousness, the fifth dimension, raising consciousness, being present, being aware, helping people with some of these hints, maybe some good book that you've read that is on the subject. But in my city, most of the people are not ripe for this information. So it might not happen very much. So you have to be very good at keeping your own company. And it's not boring because you're listening for everything and you're watching for everything. Do the things that you find the follow your bliss thing. So, whatever it is, if you like music, then do your music. That's all. Thank you for listening.